So on Friday night, I was experimenting with a little track idea. I had a few drinks. It was after a long week, and I was just kind of vibing, getting music down, and I wanted to get back into that soulful sound. And I know it's not the most popular style out there at the moment, but you know, it's a real kind of core love for me musically, and just a kind of real nice, kind of deep, emotive kind of music excursion. That was the kind of vibe that I was kind of heading on. So kind of got the elements down, got more drink down me, ended up with the rough structure that I actually recorded something on the fly. I was doing some jamming, and you know, you would have seen that video perhaps on the channel, and I've had some really good responses on it. So what I wanted to do was to obviously apply the structuring technique that we've been looking at recently, you know, the subtractive structuring technique, and I've got to say, it has enabled me to turn it around really quickly. It's quite interesting because I'd actually stopped using this technique in recent years, and I thought I'd revisit it, and it's really been quite a revelation for me, and I know that some of you guys have found it really useful as well. So you can see here the structure. Now this is actually quite a long track, so it's 8 minutes, and this is something that I didn't actually plan out. You know, I told you about kind of mapping out a structure. I did that, but then I felt the track really needed to breathe more. And there's not tons of musical elements on this, but each one had its own kind of space as I was planning it out and working with the subtractive structuring. So you can see that I mapped everything out. You can see all these deactivated clips here, and you can see this kind of gradual sort of increase in complexity as time goes on, and then a little bit of a breakdown. It's got kind of 2 breakdowns. A sufficient variation. I've been sitting with this for a day and a bit now, and I'm really happy with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take you on a little tour of the structure, and you know, introduce some of the key elements that I think are allowing this thing to flow. So I'm going to play it from the beginning, and I'm going to talk you through these. And just a little note, I am going to be putting this out on Enzyme Black Recordings. Originally I was thinking it was going to be Rough Track, but to be honest with you, it doesn't really feel like it suits the mood of that label at the moment, and I've not put anything out on Enzyme Black Recordings for a while, so expect this to hit the shops fairly soon. So there's actually something else I want to talk about at the end related to that. All right, so I'll come back to it if I remember. Right, here we go. So from the beginning, nice, simple. This is that 8-bar chunks progression. The thing that's really keeping things moving is the fact that the crash and splash is occurring at certain points. So you can see this, adding another layer on top with a clap, extra percussive elements, and a little bit of a tom in there. So that's allowing things to move. You know, you've got to think about the DJ, and what I want to bring up at the same time is the kick decay, because to allow for some progression through the track, what I've done is I've shortened the kick. This is kind of in a way like using a high pass filter to thin a kick out, but instead it's a bit different. All right, I'm keeping the weight, but I'm making it shorter. So you'll feel that in a minute. So introducing the elements gradually. That vocals turn into a little bit of a hook, stripping the kick decay back now. This is introducing the piano. So the piano, a little progression on the vocal stab there. Got another 8 bars before we hit the bass. So the pad comes in. And you can see that we're heading to the point where the bass line's coming. So the drums stripped down a bit. You can see they're a little bit less complex. And then a wind chime. So the bass comes in. You know, this track, honestly, sometimes I hit on something and I know there's something special about it. There is something special about this track. I can't quite put my finger on it. I think just the elements, the vibe, the atmosphere, there's definitely something about it, and it's definitely one of those kind of summer vibes. So maybe I shouldn't be releasing it early. I don't know, maybe I need to hold on to this for a bit. We'll see what happens. Let me know what you think, guys. But anyway, I wanted to point this out. So there's a wind chime. All right, so instead of using a sample, what I've done is I've kind of triggered it running down the keyboard, and this is a preset, a wind chime preset within the Korg M1. And it's a little bit rough there. You can see that the timing wasn't perfect. I could have moved it over, but it actually sounded fine. And just to give it a sense of space, there's a couple of elements here. The compressor is just to deal with the fact that as we're going from the high to the low frequency, what happens is the volume shifts. And I wanted a nice consistent volume there. I'll show you. Look, I take a look at the compressor, the way it's working. So there's a real variation in the energy, and what's happening is the compressor's allowing that to be consistent, so that's really helping. Ping pong delay afterwards to add a sense of space around that. So that's what I'm using in a couple of places. You can see it's coming up here. So I used the new function within Ableton Live 9, which is the ability to flip the actual MIDI data around. So look, if I show you here, so on the left hand side on the notes here, reverse, that's what I used. So whereas before it was coming down, descending, then I just flipped it around to create an ascending wind chime. So have a listen to that one. And when those kind of textures are in the background, they're really good as informing somebody that something is going to be different. It can be quite upfront or quite subtle. This one's quite subtle. Also, of course, the crash cymbal signifying the arrival of the new section there. And look throughout the track, I've got this kick, the decay moving, sometimes actually going really quite short. So you know, I wanted to do something a little bit different instead of the usual filtering, and you can see actually it gets increasingly long towards the end, so it becomes this really heavy thumping long kick drum by the end. And of course, when you've got long kick drums, you need to watch out for those basses. And I don't think I've started changing the bass on this, even though it's hitting on the same time. So let me take a look. A little bit of gelling here from the glue compressor. The EQ, you can see on my first band here that I've got some low cut. It's not actually very high in terms of the frequency there, but things feel like they're sitting right. I need to test it properly on big speakers. I've tested it on some speakers already, it's sounding great. And you can see there that I've introduced the ride to add some progression. And there's that Madet riff coming in. So another little break from the kick here. And there's the ARP piano, which actually becomes a little bit more dramatic later. If you remember the demo that I did on the Friday night, you would have seen me messing around with it, just experimenting with ideas. Layering up the piano, the original piano chord here, and that's with the ARP piano as well. Bit of brightening here on the EQ, bit of delay. So now stripping back down. Reintroducing the vocal. You know, I do want the vocal to be occurring all the time, otherwise it just gets a little bit too repetitive. It's just a couple of little vocal samples being triggered. There's a new melodic element coming in now, which possibly could come up in volume. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to drop in a utility. So just going to bring the level up here, because I was maxed out on the volume on the fader already. Maybe 1.8 dBs might be better. Yeah, I think so. Just gonna put the other earbud in. And you'll notice that the ride is gone. That will come back, just to pick up the energy a bit on here. Yeah, I mean, you know, what I wanted to do was a track that's really quite emotive. Sometimes I do tracks for reasons, you know, and I was thinking about the kind of the concept of if you know, well, in the future, I'm saying if I die, but when I die, if my daughter is kind of listening to my music, you know, sometimes what I'm trying to do is pass on messages to her. And the title of the track is all about basically if someone has lost someone, and the whole concept of the clouds, sun coming through, kind of like helping them remember that person, you know, like a real positive memory, you know, so that's the whole kind of vibe. And I think it's really important to tie in kind of life and emotional experiences into music, because then you get more of a kind of passion in terms of making it tell a story. So I'd encourage all of you, if you're really struggling for inspiration and motivation, think about that life death, experience, relationships, all of these things, and try and put some of that feeling into the music. It's gonna be more worthwhile, you know. So anyway, we're coming, you know, to the kind of outro section, bringing back the high melody again. So you can see that, you know, we're nearly 6 minutes. It hasn't felt as if it's boring. You know, it's going to be a really nice DJ tool. It's one of those things where it's going to shift the energy down a bit, a little bit of a kind of relaxing mid-set kind of thing. If things have been hectic for a while, they can flip into this. Or alternatively, you know, it's a poolside vibe, you know, Ibiza, Miami, anywhere in the world where you've got that nice kind of sunset kind of poolside vibe. It's kind of like an early doors tune. Lots of different uses, but you know, obviously it's not the whole kind of banging underground deep vibe. It's not EDM, it's not any of these other styles. It's just what I would class as soulful house, in that it's got a real kind of soulful energy to it and a feel, very American sounding. So I'm just going to let it play out to the end so you get a feel for it, stripping the elements down gradually. I mean, I even considered bringing the bass out earlier, but you know, it had to breathe. That's a great thing about a subtractive technique, the structuring. You can try stuff, deactivate the clip, activate it, whatever you need to do just to get a feel for it. So now we're into that section at the end when the DJ is taking out the existing track, and you can see here the decay is getting shorter, so it's going to make it a lot easier to mix. So it's almost like having the high pass filter taking out the bass. And then that's pretty much it. I mean, at the very end, I've got where it's going to fall down here. It's going to cascade down, really stripped down drums. Wind chime going down, splash, crash cymbal. That's it. That's the end. Sorry, my door's open there, and I just think it's just the breeze. But anyway, the thing that I remember to say at the very end is that what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to package it in a real kind of old school American kind of way. So this is the main mix, and this is going to be on the release, but I'm also going to do a reprise mix and then a beats mix. So the reprise is a DJ tool which is just going to be with no beats. It maybe have a couple of drum elements, maybe the clap, and big up, you know, Sam Marini for this. You know, he mentioned it on Twitter. It's something I was actually thinking about doing anyway. So what we're going to do is we're going to have the music as like a DJ tool that you can put on top of beats, and then also a beats tool which is going to have some of these drum and percussion elements all kind of stripped back and then go on their own kind of structure. So I might actually do another video about that. All right, so we'll see how it goes. All right, so anyway, let's take a look behind the structure, once again using the subtractive structuring technique.